SpectreVision Radio.
Telemetry and launch condition.
Well, some other observers are...
Hey, it's late night.
It's late night on the astral plane, where it's never too late. With your host, Ryan Singer.
It's more fun to believe. Greetings and welcome to another voyage of Late Night on the Astral Plane, Late Night on Tap with your buddy, that's me, Ryan Singer. There's a lot going on right now, and there is an intense amount of things happening in the world of the paranormal and the world of disclosure specifically that we can get into here today just a little bit. There is a new documentary, The Age of Disclosure, that is out there that a lot of people are talking about. Full disclosure, I have not seen this documentary as of yet. I think it's like $20 or something to rent or buy or whatever on the internet. I have not done that as of yet. I have two people who have. I know two people who have fallen asleep watching it. That is not to say that the documentary isn't good. I hear that it's very well made. And so anyway, but we can get into some of the finer points on some of that. Last week, I read to you the entire accounting of the unverified whistleblower that had posted someone had posted on Reddit going under the name Leah, I believe, or Rhea, as an unverified whistleblower, and about the story about the ant aliens that are coming here, the insectoid ant aliens that are coming here in 2027 to try to kill all the humans and start a war and mess up the council's big plans and their experiment of us and the Arids, which are the human beings that are 5,000 years ahead of us, that were taken from Earth as an experiment and put onto another planet. With no scarcity issues, and now they're 5,000 years ahead of us technologically, just in general, because they never had to worry about food, water, shelter, money, etc., energy, etc. That brings me to, we can circle that into potentially, is this part of the greater narrative of the fear-based campaign that the secret trans international group, that allegedly, according to some people in the disclosure, the people who have been in disclosure the longest, are saying that Wernher von Braun warned us about on his deathbed, the world famous rocket scientist. Now, there's a lot going on there, right? So now what I did do is, I also want to talk a little bit about precognition, because I think we can kind of lose track of some of the more magical and mystical aspects of the woo-woo world of the paranormal and phenomena when we're getting into, we can kind of get sucked into certain subjects and certain topics for longer periods of time. One of them is disclosure. And if you've been listening to the show for many years, you know that I love disclosure. Disclosure's always been one of my main things. It's a human rights issue. There's no such thing as above top secret or top secret information when it comes to ETs, extraterrestrials, non-human intelligence, all these things. There's no such thing as certain humans deserve to know and others don't. That just doesn't, that's a non-starter for someone like me. So, NDAs be damned about that kind of thing. Right. So there's just, you can't convince me. Now, is this a flawed way of approaching a subject, saying that you cannot convince me otherwise? Probably so. But nonetheless, you cannot convince me that every human being on the planet doesn't deserve to know the truth about whether or not we've been interacting and have had contact with extraterrestrials already, and for 70, 80 years at this point. So, but can you get into precognition as well? Can these two things, do these two things tie into one another? Well, you could say that they do. Many people are saying 2026, 2027. This could be some kind of watershed moment for humanity in general. I had a great conversation with a channeler today. That interview will probably be coming to you early next year, 2026. There's so much to get into, depending on if you want to talk about the Monroe Institute, you want to talk about out of body traveling, you want to talk about learning how to do out of body traveling. You Are these things real? And we know that they are. And now precognition, as we know, comes in many forms, right? Whether it's dreams or whether it's through some kind of clairvoyance, psychic ability. How does it manifest? How does precognition manifest itself? In different forms, indeed. People can read the tea leaves. They can use any kind of divination device, apparently, supposedly, allegedly, and certainly, I would say, as the last option that we settle on here. So there's a lot going on, but it's all tied in together and it's all connected through consciousness. And that's what we love about all this stuff, that it is all connected. Now, I watched the Lost Century documentary, which is available for free on Amazon Prime. In case you do have Amazon Prime, that documentary is there, and it is about the 100 years of basically the lost century. Details how we are 100 years behind what we should have in technology because of very purposeful suppression of 0 point gravity and other free energy devices, right? 0 point energy, I believe, is what it's called, and then anti-gravity. So anti-gravity and 0 point energy. So which Tesla first, not even just Tesla, but all kinds of people have been. Oh man, there's a long list of inventors who have tapped into this magical field of the other dimension, right? Oh, I gotta sneeze. Excuse me. That's usually they come in two in my family. In my family, sneezes come in twos, but it looks like we got lucky and we just got one. So Zeus and Odin, bless me, please, after that. But let's start with precognition, because I do believe that when it comes to precognition and it comes to, I don't know, there's people out there who are going to give you dates, and they're going to tell you dates when things are happening. Now, some of these people are telling you because they get it. They get a message. They channel the message. They've been delivered the message from their guides. They've been given the message from ETs. They, get these messages, let's just say magically in that case. Well, other people say they get messages not so magically and very real. And these are predicted timelines, right, of when things are going to happen. If you look at the current rate of things happening, we could say predictive models, right? Predictive models and magical models. Now, predictive models that would include, but not limited to, something like climate change and the inevitable disasters that we will keep facing in increased intensity. The longer and longer we have governments here in countries like the United States and China and Russia and other places that just don't seem to care about the biosphere and the environment and are more concerned with filling the pockets of, the super rich, the techies, the oligarchs, et cetera, et cetera. But what does precognition tell us about the future of the human race? Oftentimes, it is something quite hopeful. Oftentimes. And it's usually a message of love when it comes from a magical model as opposed to a predictive model. There's usually some kind of underlying undercurrent message of love, forgiveness, togetherness, and unity that comes with these precognitive messages. Now, that don't sound too bad, does it? But don't tell your super Christian pastor that, because they might think you're talking to the devil. Perhaps, I don't know if that's still a thing in Christian denomination churches, that like psychics and things are evil and talking to the devil. Who knows? Probably is, because they're honing in on their market, right? It's a marketplace battle. It's about territory. But let's read from, this is a book that I read, I don't know, gosh, it's probably going on 6, 7 years now. Life Without Death. This is mirrored, so that doesn't read right. Life Without Death on Parapsychology, Mysticism, and the Question of Survival by Niels Jacobson. I read this book years ago. There's some interesting aspects of this book that I think are worth revisiting, even though maybe not everything in this book is worth revisiting. That doesn't matter. Let's cherry pick if we can, just a little bit here, if you don't mind. I don't know what time it is, but it's never too late over here. But okay, let me just read you from the chapter 5, precognition, experiments with precognition, just as a refresher for some of us, including myself. Toward the end of the 30s, the British researcher W. Carrington made ESP experiments using drawings. His percipients were asked to make sketches of what they thought a certain drawing looked like, a drawing which he made and then kept to himself. He made new drawings each day, and similarities between these and the percipient's drawings were studied by outside observers. Now, it's interesting because I've done this recently with a group of friends, and God, it's probably might even been a year now. Some people uh, we got together and we would do Zoom meetings every once in a while together, and I would have a drawing inside of a book, and I'd try to send that message about what the drawing was to them, and we could see who recreate it or actually guess what it was. So this must be probably, or this is one of the places that planted that seed for me. Most certainly, it sounds like. Now, when Carrington realized that S.G. Soule had not obtained significant results from his thousands of card guessing experiments, he advised him to investigate whether some of his subjects might have made correct guesses for the cards which came after the cards they were supposed to be guessing at the time. Soule, Soal is how you pronounce or spell that person's last name, went through his results once again, and it was then that he noticed that Mr. Shackleton in particular had guessed the cards correctly ahead of time, much more often than what would have been expected according to chance. New experiments gave the remarkably significant results mentioned in chapter 2. We're not going to go back to that. Shackleton continued to guess cards ahead of time, even when he could not have known by telepathy or clairvoyance which card was to be the target for the next guess, since the target card had not been chosen until after he had already made his guess. This experiment indicated that Shackleton really had knowledge of what card would be chosen. But mightn't it have been the experiment leader who had ESP and used it in making his choice of the target object to correspond with Shackleton's guess? No, other experiments in which the selection of the target object was made completely mechanically proved to give similar results. In striking experiments, H. Schmidt used electrons, which gave off radioactive strontium-90. He placed a small quantity of strontium near a Geiger-Müller tube so that an average of 10 electrons were registered per second. According to quantum physics, it is impossible to predict when the next electron will be registered. The subjects were to guess the appearance of the next electron. Using an apparatus which registered the appearance in connection with a 4-circuit breaker, each circuit of which was changed 1,000,000 times a second with the help of an electric pulse generator. The apparatus had 4 buttons to press and 4 corresponding lights. When a button was depressed, nothing happened until the appearance of the next electron was registered by the meter. Okay, are we following this? In that instant, the contact between the pulse generator and the circuit breaker was broken so that the latter switched off one of the four circuits in which the electron was. When it was registered, the corresponding lamp lit up. If the subject had depressed the correct button, the circuit breaker registered a hit. The number of guesses was counted automatically. 3 subjects were chosen from the preliminary experience, made altogether a total of 63,000 guesses. And they got 4.4% more hits above average or above chance. This does not sound like much, but with such a large number of guesses, the probability that the results depended on chance alone was less than 1 in 500 million. Okay, and there were subsequent examinations or experiments, excuse me, is the proper term. Now, usually in large collections of spontaneous paranormal experiences, 30 to 50% of the experiences give information about future events in the form of premonitions, visions, or most common of all, true dreams. The character of the experiences can vary in the same way as telepathic impressions. Thus, they may be dreams, visions, or other sensory imagery, more diffuse experiences of unease, feelings, or impressions, or bodily discomfort. Oh, okay, so here's an example of a premonition that's given. So we're seeing the difference here between this is, obviously the clinical based study using, factoring in, odds, chance, quantum physics, electrons. And then you have spontaneous paranormal experiences, which is really, really interesting. I had forgotten this really fascinating percentage of 30 to 50% of the experiences give information about future events. Here's a simple premonition can be taken as an example of this. I have premonitions occasionally about things which come true almost immediately. But this was something special and went like this. Tomorrow morning, a young lady E will come to pay a bill for her grandfather. Her mother will come along with her, but stay down on the path in the garden while E comes up into the backyard and carries out her errand. The event happened exactly as the premonition came to me. Now, what's interesting here is I was just watching a Christmas movie. And during that Christmas movie, I was having what I would call accelerated déjà vu. Accelerated déjà vu, I'm calling that now for the first time, I believe, is the sensation, the feeling that you're having déjà vu, but it's lasting longer. And there seems to be a lingering memory attached to the thing that you're seeing that you believe you've seen already. Now, the lingering memory, what does that mean? And I'll probably never remember this phrase because you might be shocked by this, but I don't go back and listen to my own episodes of the podcast. But so there's a lingering memory attached to the accelerated and extended déjà vu, meaning that when I have déjà vu, I am hell-bent on trying to stay in the moment if I can and see if I can think about the thing that's going to happen next after the thing that I'm seeing that's like, oh, I've seen this. And then what happens after this is, yeah. Then we lose it. We lose the thread, right? I think that's probably common for most of us. With accelerated déjà vu and lingering memory attached, I can separate myself from the moment that just happened that I'm seeing. And it's extended. It's longer than just a second or two or a few seconds, right? I'm in the moment and the energy and the juice is still there swirling around me. I'm still in the bowl, right? The toilet hasn't flushed all the way, right? So let's say déjà vu is when it's the water in the bowl, the toilet bowl, and then you look at the toilet bowl, it starts to flush. You're like, oh, I've seen this before. And then before you can think about it, if there's a really strong flush capacity, which, can never be underestimated for contributing to the enjoyment of one's life. Let's be honest. A strong flush capacity is such a grand gift to give oneself in their own bathroom. Now that will flush quick. Boom, it's gone. The water in the bowl and whatever else is in the bowl, we don't need to get into that. Let's just say you're flushing it just to test it. The water's gone. boom, and then deja vu is gone with it. Okay, I don't know why I slowed down there. So the deja vu is gone with the water in the bowl pretty quick because of strong flush capacity. Now, when you have an accelerated deja vu, it sounds like it's going to be shorter, actually. Maybe I should be calling it extended deja vu with a lingering memory attached. Um, it's almost like now I'm thinking of a dingleberry. The memory is a dingle. I didn't mean for this to be a toilet metaphor, but I picked a toilet, so I guess I did, quite frankly. Sometimes the water swirls longer, right? Takes a minute, right? You got to hold the handle down, maybe. Maybe there's even a little sign at like a bar or a restaurant or something like, please hold the handle down until it flushes and then lift the handle back up. And that takes, I don't know, sometimes 10. I've seen a toilet. Can you believe this? I've seen a toilet that probably took upwards of 15 seconds to completely flush. Now, that's a toilet taking its sweet time, right? That is a teapot that is in no hurry to whistle. Okay, where I come from, that's extended. That's an extended flush. Okay, so let's say extended deja vu, where you can have the feeling in that juice, that swirl, that energy. The feeling of the deja vu is the swirl of the water, right? And it's strong at first. And then then it's gone. And you're like, oh, it's gone. What would I do to flush again? You know what I mean? Have that juice, have that swirl. With the extended, it lasts. It's probably lasted half a minute at least, maybe even a minute, where I could even start cycling like a Rolodex, like do 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 do. I was going through my mind with my mind fingers, like through the cards, looking through the cards, like I've seen this moment before. Well, and I even said, I said, I've seen this. Who was someone else in this house has watched this movie because I've seen this before, and I started cycling through memories, and it was there, man. It was there. I was this close, dude. Dude, I'm telling you, I was that close to getting it. And then whew, it was gone. That was an extended deja vu with a lingering memory attached. And the memory I couldn't fully bring into focus, but visually I could see them like stacked on top of one another almost, right? Sometimes you see in movies where a figure, they can create that shadow effect where it turns into multiples. Um, the opacity, isn't at 100% and boom, boom. They were right on top of each other. I knew it was happening. I was in the same general space when I was seeing it, but it was gone. Maybe I'll figure it out at a later point in the future. I don't know. But I got really sidetracked on this. But it is deja vu. I feel like it's almost like a premonition of the future happening in the past. Um, because deja vu essentially rings of premonition, but it's almost like having a premonition in the moment of something happening. So it's a simultaneous premonition. It's actually, what if deja vu, and people have probably theorized about this already, and I'm just now coming around to it because I can be slow at times. What if deja vu is the now and the future, and potentially even the past, but let's say now, the present moment, and the future moment happening simultaneously in a weird glimpse into the true nonlinear nature of time. These deja vu moments are gifts somehow to try to jar us loose from this, I don't know, archaic, this stoic, this fixed position of time is past, present, future. No, time is all simultaneous. Maybe deja vu is the now and the future happening simultaneously. That is pretty cool. Well, it's our glimpse into the separate points of time, the separate physical spaces of time have somehow folded over one another into an overlapping sandwich of time that we call the deja vu sandwich. And boy, oh boy, feed me the deja. If the deja vu sandwich is on the menu, I'm ordering it every single time because it's a delicious hoagie. It's a paradox hoagie. Um, But premonitions in dreams are fascinating to me because we've talked to people who experience those, and premonitions, messages from deep meditations are a thing. Out of body traveling. Would you call being seen or being seen in the future? Would you call traveling to the quote unquote linear future through an out of body meditation like Robert Monroe would discuss in his book Far Journeys, which is the second of three books that he wrote about out of body experiences? Would that be considered a premonition? Or would that just be time traveling or a visitation to the future with your consciousness and your non-physical self? Would we classify that as a premonition? I don't know if we would, but it's interesting to think about for sure. 30 to 50% of spontaneous paranormal experiences give information about future events in the form of premonitions, visions, or most common of all, true dreams. Paranormal, spontaneous paranormal experiences. And you know I love an SPE. An SPE is the thing that rattles most of us from our materialistic logjam. And now the ideas and the you know, the curiosities are free to flow in the river of our consciousness and our imagination, fed by the current of curiosity. These are the things that really, really shake people up and get people going. These SPEs, these spontaneous paranormal experiences. And to think that up to half of them contain premonitions. And why wouldn't they? Like, think of it. I just got it. Like, why wouldn't they, man? Because think of it this way. You've got a spontaneous paranormal experience happening, and you might not even really classify it as a full-on spontaneous paranormal experience until later the premonition happens that you were given during that SPE, and therefore retroactively that SPE becomes even more profound. I mean, it feels like in the realm of premonitions, visions, and true dreams, that's why we can't just think about these things as this moment in time that just happened. Like, oh, I saw this person shapeshift. Moment's gone. That's the whole experience. No, the paranormal experience is probably starts even before the thing happened. You know, if we can get into, you know, the Global Consciousness Project and Dr. Roger Nelson and how these random number generators and consciousness is aware, they spike before these things happen, be these major global events, whether it was like Princess Di's funeral or 9/11, like there were spikes in the random number generators measuring global consciousness spiking moments before. So this is global premonition. There are premonitions on a global scale, subconsciously, that we're not even aware of, but we all are participating in and a part of. And that is wild, man. That is really cool to think about. And yeah, man, it's like, man, it's the coolest thing I've ever heard, man. And it's never gonna stop being cool, man. And it's like totally the coolest thing. Not not many cooler things than that, man. You know what, Todd? You nailed it. And I'd like to thank Todd for popping in. It's been a while since we've heard from you, Todd. Yeah, man. I'm just like, I'm just out here, man. I'm floating, I'm floating around, man. I'm like a bubble. Don't let me pop, man. I did it almost, man. Oh, you were trying to do the thing with a finger inside the cheek or whatever. Let me see if I can do it, Don. There, I could do it. Hey, man, you nailed it, man. That's really cool, man. I want to do that, man. I'll practice and get back to you. Okay, much love to you, Todd. Thanks for popping in, just reinforcing that this global consciousness that we're all a part of and participating in is happening whether we realize it or not. And once we really realize it, it becomes, you kind of get that juice. You get that juice swirl. You get the electricity, the energy, the juice, it starts swirling around. Let's take a quick break, and when we come back, we're gonna talk about the lost century a little more, and then I want to read to you. A declassified document, or we're gonna talk about a declassified document, and if you're watching the podcast, don't worry, I'm gonna throw it up on the screen for you, and we'll link to where you can find it. It's on the dpiarchive.com, I believe is the website, but dpiarchive.com, where there's all kinds of declassified documents and things like that have been put up about disclosure. Now, in the meantime, you can go to patreon.com/Ryan Singer, and you can hear no ads. Wouldn't that be wonderful? We'll be right back. Hello, we're back. Thank you for continuing the program, the voyage, with us. And I just want to say, also mentioned in this book about premonitions and precognition, life without death, ? On parapsychology, mysticism, and the question of survival, by Niels Jacobson, MD. Not all precognition dream, or not all true dreams are precognition dreams. Now, there could be something that I'll elaborate on, I guess, just for a second here, is I think sometimes we can underestimate our intuition, and we can underestimate our own ability to be able to be connected to nature in a way that allows us to foretell an event that might be happening, because we are picking up on the signals or the inputs, if you want to be scientific about it, of data that are coming our way. There's a story in here about someone who has a dream about a tidal wave coming to their village, and they woke up and they told everyone in the village about it. They took it very seriously, so they all got out of there. And then a few hours later, in fact, a tidal wave did occur and hit the village. Now, did that person just intuitively have a connection to nature? It is possible, and it is a potentiality that person was connected to nature, and their intuition was picking up the signs, the way, whether the barometric pressure or whatever, the winds, and and understood that something was coming. A big natural event was about to occur. Now, the dream is also very interesting because it happened, right? But did they dream that thing because they were picking up on the inputs, because their intuition and their connectivity to nature? Because let's be clear here, at least over in this corner of the woo-woo neighborhood, we believe that nature has consciousness, and we believe that consciousness is the foundation of all things. So therefore, we are sharing consciousness with nature on every level of nature that you can think about. We are connected. That's why I think I told you a few weeks ago. I've elevated my tree hugging game. I actually will give a tree a kiss. Now, kiss your trees. Kiss some trees. You know what I mean? Don't whistle at them. Don't tell a tree to smile. Just, you can hug them, give them a kiss, let them know you love them. So let's shift gears into some disclosure topics. So I would recommend watching The Lost Century. Pretty good documentary. It's got some people in there that seem to know their stuff. And and let's be honest, I'm a sucker for any documentary that has a consciousness researcher as one of the talking head people / experts or whatever that they're using. There's a lot of fascinating stuff about anti-gravity energy devices that have been invented, and it talks a little bit about something called they call the crazy inventor syndrome. They also talk about the patent process. They have former U.S. PTO people, U.S. patent offices, trademark office people who were supposed to, they're the ones reviewing patent applications for inventions and things like that. And if you've ever gone through that process, I've gone through the patent office for something before. It's kind of a tricky process. And he was a whistleblower, wondering why all energy device patents through the USPTO, they can be flagged for secrecy, and you can be given an order to never make or manufacture or talk about your invention. That seems crazy, right? That seems wild. And they say national security. That's what they say, for national security. This has been flagged and we are taking it essentially from you. This is where I land on all that. The government serves the citizens of whoever the government is for. Whatever citizens elect a government, that government is in service of the citizens. When that government stops being in service of and to the citizens who elected it and finance it through their taxes, it's time for that government to go. Now we're talking about whole systems of government, specifically, modern day United States of America capitalism. It needs to go. It needs to be gone, in my opinion. It is toxic and it is destroying the earth, and it feeds greed and rewards the psychopath. So we need to get rid of it. That's, obviously not a super popular point of view, but I think it is growing in popularity when people look around and they see the state of the world, they see the state of climate change and, the gap between the rich and the poor, et cetera, et cetera. So this is a big factor, it turns out, in disclosure when it comes to energy, the energy oligarchs, the kingpins of the energy worldwide. We're talking about fossil fuels, petroleum, coal, all that stuff. So, uranium, lithium, anything that can be extracted from the earth and used as a tool or as a resource. Big money, trillions and trillions of dollars and all that. And so when you have all these reverse engineered ET technologies that are using 0 point energy and are using anti-gravity, that's a problem for the status quo, the people in the status quo. But here's the thing about the free market, right, and capitalism that I was always taught growing up. It's like, if you're given a chance, you have a great idea, you can succeed. And if it fails, it fails, and you tried, but good luck. But then we learned in 2008 during the bailout that's all bullshit, right? Because we can't let these companies fail because they're too big to fail. They're too big to fail. We can't let them fail. Meanwhile, the rest of us were allowed to fail over and over and over and over and over again for infinity. And it's almost set up for us to do so because the people who are too big to fail don't want to lose their spot at the too big to fail table. Now, 0 point energy gets rid of all of the energy. It gets rid of, all the fossil fuels, seemingly all of it, almost all of it, right? Now, levels the playing field. Now, anti-gravity does the same thing in different ways, right? It makes transport and travel of goods that now cost zero money essentially to manufacture because of the 0 point energy. Now the energy cost isn't there, and the climate damage is the damage to the biosphere and the earth is not happening anymore. Boom. Now you can move all that stuff. Boom, boom, boom. Quick in the blink of an eye, essentially, right? I don't know. It seems almost like a utopian fairy tale in some way, and you hope it's not. You hear about people who have predictive dreams of the future, people who are telling you that they are channeling sources, people who have premonitions of the future. And what you hear often is a better world than we have now. It's it is possible that you hear some dark stuff as well. And you do hear those stories. Those stories come through. The unverified whistleblower, that's not a premonition. That's not a vision given to someone. That's someone claiming to have been in the top secret levels of government and seeing and putting pieces together and et cetera, et cetera. I don't believe that story to be true. That we talked about last week. I think it's a fear-mongering story that actually lines up exactly with, one of the national security threat timelines that, the disclosure movement talks about, them using man-made things as opposed to ET craft to try to create fear and to seize more control and take away more rights. I believe that might be some kind of backdoor feeding into that as well. Who knows? I could be wrong. It could just be someone trying to, work on their writing skills for their science fiction novel. It could be that as well. I just don't believe that there's ant people coming to Earth to try to fight us. I just don't think that's happening. In basically a little over a year from now, because it's supposed to happen in 2027. So 2026 is like, I don't know, when is this coming out? It's going to be like or a month from now. I don't know. It's going to be a month from now. So I don't think that's going to happen. But I don't think that unverified whistleblower is worth losing any sleep over. And I'll eat my words when the ant shoots me in the face with a laser. But guess what? Who cares at that point? Because I'm on to my next incarnation at that point. And the ant people will be gone. And I probably won't need my physical body anymore after that. So that actually might be a win-win situation. Not living in fear and then also being in the next phase of my consciousness, spiritual and physical evolution. But so I watch The Lost Century. I listen to the podcast, the Age of Deception, which is what it was called, on a play on words of the Age of Disclosure documentary. And it talks about how there's no real new information given about UFOs and disclosure in that documentary. Now, what it does do, it gets a lot of, I guess, normal people interested in this whole thing, but they don't talk about the man-made craft. They don't talk about, apparently in the documentary, now I will watch it at some point, but I'm not going to pay for it. I don't want to put money in the pockets of the people who made it. But it's one of those things where they say, yes, we have reverse engineered ET craft from off planet, but no, we don't have man-made ones. They don't talk about that. So if we've reverse engineered it, obviously we have the technology. So what's stopping us? I mean, when there's been all kinds of whistleblowers coming forward in the Disclosure Project saying that we have man-made UFOs, and we have for decades and decades and decades, we've had these things. These are man-made. So there's that. So, but it's like, if you're just a guy like me, or you're a person like you, how are you supposed to keep up, and how are you supposed to be able to discern? Oh, I touched my nose and here it goes. I think I always sneeze when I'm getting ready to go on one, right? So if you're you and if you're me, how are we supposed to keep up with all this? How are we supposed to be able to have the discernment to be able to understand when we're being lied to, forcibly lied to, or when we're being led down a path of of misinformation and things like that? How are we supposed to know that? And I think I have this conversation with friends of mine, and that's why it can be discouraging, to say the least, right? It can be very discouraging. But what we have to remember, and maybe what we continue to focus on, are the very personal experiences that not only we have, and the comforting community that we build, and the experiencer themselves, and what have they experienced. And more importantly, my therapist will tell you this about my Bigfoot experience. It doesn't matter what was in the woods that night. That scared the hell out of me and ruined my dream of owning a mountain house someday or being able to sleep with my lights off for a year. It doesn't matter what that was. We're concerned about the effect it had on the person, right? So, regardless if it is a man constructed, humanoid looking robot ET appearing to be a gray, right? That feels fleshy and rubbery and soft, flying around in a zero anti-gravity, a 0 point energy or an anti-gravity UFO, right? And there's aliens on that UFO that happen to be robots that have been built to look and act just like robots. How are you supposed to be able to discern that in the moment when you're seeing that or being approached by these things, right? My guess is that in that moment, that's not your first question. No. What is the effect that an experience like that would have on you as a person? That's really all we got, right? And we can desperately seek Susan when it comes to answers. Susan is the answers, right? In the truth, and then like get to the bottom of the truth. What's the origin of that truth? And what is the origin of the origins of that truth? And how far can we trace it back? And what started all these things in motion to make these events even possible? We could drive ourselves crazy doing that. And there are people diligently and desperately seeking Susan in regards of they're looking for those answers. And they are uncovering and finding more and more every single day, and more whistleblowers are coming forward because they look around and they see the world, and they understand, they eventually they get their priorities, and they understand that these NDAs that they're signing for the government are total garbage. Like, they don't matter when it comes to and I'm not saying people are breaking those, because to the best of my knowledge they're not. But my feeling is that at some point, there will be a watershed. There will be a breaking of the NDA dam, right? Where people are just like, these NDAs don't matter. We're talking about extraterrestrials, and we're talking about human cooperation with an extraterrestrial species on an intergalactic community scale. And my NDA that I signed with Skunkworks doesn't fucking matter, okay? Because it doesn't. And it doesn't. And I don't care if you're some kind of special ops guy. I was a Navy SEAL, and I was on UFO retrieval programs, blah, blah, blah. We'll tell the world about it. These are important. This is a human rights issue. And this national security garbage that we hear about is it's nauseating, right? These NDAs will all go the way of the dodo at some point. And they don't matter as far as I'm concerned. And, I don't know. If I signed an NDA about, now, there are NDAs obviously that I have signed NDAs before, never about something like this, obviously. Like creative projects that are in development. You sign an NDA oftentimes. If it's not your idea and you're getting brought into an idea, you sign an NDA, right? That's fine. We're not talking about paradigm altering disclosure about the true nature of the universe and our place in the galaxy. That's not what we're talking about on those other NDAs. Those NDAs will exist, and that's fine. That's fine. But when it comes to this kind of stuff, um, it's crazy to me, right? Now, obviously, it's more complicated than that, Ryan. And, there are threats, there are, litigation. And I think even more than that is the threats to you and people close to you. And, I don't know, all the consequences that can come with it that aren't like, we're taking you to court. There's a lot of other ones that are a little more outside the box, and maybe, well, 100% maybe is fair to say, less above board, less legal, that you hear about when you hear about scientists kind of being disappeared. And it is scary stuff. And I'm not trying to be dismissive of that. But what I'm saying is, it's only a matter of time before these NDAs about, seeing aliens and things like that will they're not going to hold much water because you're basically sticking to an NDA for a company that is breaking the law. So they don't hold water in any way in that aspect. You can't make someone not disclose information about something that an illegal operation, something that breaks the law. So um, it's a it's just not something that holds up in court. From what I understand, and everything I'm reading and seeing about this kind of stuff, from what I understand, I am obviously not a lawyer. So, but hey, you know what I mean? It's like this national security lie is it's just so not, I mean, when you see through it, I guess, or when you choose, let me say it this way. When you choose not to believe it, like me, and people, I guess people like me, it's so obvious, right, of how simple, I guess it can be. And in that way, you can feel powerless is how we kind of got into this, right? Like how am I supposed to affect change in some kind of way when all these blah blah blah, and it's about the experiencer and it's about the experiences, and it's about the comfort in sharing and being there for each other when um and not just in the paranormal stuff and the other stuff too in life, right? We're all in this life together. Now I can be utterly consumed by paranormal thoughts and information and projects and ideas and creativity drives me to, I'm staring at sticky notes and I'm staring at pieces of paper I've printed out, outlines of the Florida documentary. I'm constantly consumed with books about all this kind of stuff now, and other research rabbit holes that I can't wait to investigate to try to unravel some kind of mystery about. But at the end of the day, I'm still a person. I still have a life. I have family. I have friends, relationships, things with all these different people in my life that, we need to talk about baseball cards sometimes. I need to go to a baseball card shop, right? But we need to be there for one another. And that's the key. And let's take one more break and I'll be there for you after the break and we'll put a bow on this thing. We might dive back into this thing a little bit. Life without death? Question mark. I do remember talking about this book now because that's how I'd always do it. Life without death? Question mark. We're going to be right back. Patreon.com/Ryan Singer. $3 a month. No ads. Okay, we're back. I just randomly opened up to one of the bookmarks I have in Life Without Death? Question mark. And it's what a cool section. It is a section entitled Cross Correspondences. A medium who practices some sort of automatic activity, usually automatic writing, will be called here simply an automatist. The word communicator defines a personality, or more precisely a persona, which communicates, that is, appears in mediumistic messages, regardless of whether this happens verbally during seances, through automatic writing, or other activities. The communicator usually identifies himself with a deceased's name and also states that his home is in the spirit world. Naturally, this does not prove that the messages really come from that deceased person. The communicator could also be a subconscious personification from within the medium. The question of the communicator's true identity is what really should be investigated. The opinion that the communicator cannot be identical with some aspect of the deceased's personality is, on the other hand, only an expression of preconceived notions and unwillingness to study the facts. It gets into Myers and Sidgwick, pioneers in the British SPR, died around 1900. Automatic writing was a common form of expression with British mediums. And a Mrs. Verrall, who had been fired by Myers' enthusiasm for psychical research, began as an automatist immediately after Myers' death in 1901, with the clear intention of giving him an opportunity to communicate if he could. After 3 months, a communicator did appear who said he was Myers. Then something completely unexpected happened. Now, this is where it gets juicy. Other automatists in England, India, and the United States began to produce references to the themes which appeared in Mrs. Verrall's automatic writing. Fragmentary allusions to themes in classical Greek and Latin poetry appeared in a way that was often incomprehensible to the individual automatists, among whom only Mrs. Varall had a classical education. Only when material from several automatists was gathered together could it be studied and coped with more comprehensively by outsiders. It seemed as if someone wanted to prove his identity by making a classical puzzle in a manner one might have expected from Myers and his colleagues. Other allusions to events in their lives also appeared. These cross correspondences continued for a decade and became increasingly complicated. This is what I'm talking about, right? Have you ever been on a paranormal investigation? Perchance you have, peradventure, while out here on a paranormal investigation that is long form. Let's call it a long form. It's called a herald for my improvers out there. And what I find is all of these paranormal investigations, Florida, Colorado, Post Town, the bridge, all these other things, they melt into one another. They start they start showing up wherever you go. Now you have this conversation with someone like Matthew Jackson. You have this conversation with Eric Connor. You talk, about maybe spirits, entities, intelligences, or whatever that they encounter along the way through ITC sessions or work, and then this intelligence, this personality shows up, pops in wherever they go. They become a character in their story. Now, that's not what a cross correspondence necessarily is, but I will tell you this: upon my death, I most certainly will be communicating with multiple people. I imagine more than a few people shall be visited by me from beyond the grave. And I'll tell you what, some of them better get their act together, because they're not going to like what happens. I'm going to be moving their chairs around. I'm going to be gaslighting them in their kitchen. They're going to be like, why is my blender on? A singer making shakes. That's a joke I used to do. But no, but in all seriousness, I definitely will be visiting more than a few friends from beyond the grave through automatists if they choose to bring them in. And most of them have ITC devices or are mediums or channelers or psychics themselves. So I'll appear to them, but they'll know. That reminds me, I need to update my envelopes, my death envelopes. So because you can, here's what you can do. You can write a bunch of things for individuals in an envelope, right? On a piece of paper, like, this is after I'm dead, this is what I'm going to do, because I'm probably going to die before you, potentially. Who knows, just because of my lifestyle that I've had, traveling and, don't have a savings account, don't have health insurance, like, as an artist, like, these are the things you dream about as a kid. Like, I'm never going to have any money, and I'm never going to be able to go to a doctor. Like, right. So you live in a way where you just eat whatever you want and you smoke cigarettes for 25 years. But in all honesty, you got to update your envelopes, right? Because chances are, if you try to take care of yourself at all, you're going to live a little bit longer than you think you might, right? And I think every artist, every creative person has that. I'm going to be dead at like 27, and then you get to 30, and you're like, oh, I guess I'll probably die at 30 by 33, and then you make it past 33, and you're like, oh, I guess I better start thinking about living here for a while, and then you do, and you start trying to take care of yourself, but you got to update your envelopes, because you could write something in, like, if you're like me, you write something in a letter to, like, let's say I write it to friend A, right? And I'm like, this is what I'm going to do for you after I'm dead. And then you live, and then like 5 years go by and you haven't looked at your envelope. How are you supposed to remember what you wrote for friend A? And now you're doing ghost stuff to friend B that you said you would do to friend A. So friend A doesn't think your ghost is showing up, and friend B doesn't think your ghost is showing up either, because you're doing ghost stuff to friend F that you're supposed to be doing to friend B, because they can't all be the exact same. You can't be doing the same things to your friends, right? So you got to update your envelopes, your death envelopes. You got to update. So you got to remember what you got to keep track of how you're supposed to be haunting people, right? Um, it's all the devil's in the details, right? And the haunting is in the notes, and go back and remember, how you're supposed to be haunting your friends. Do us all a favor, right? So we can, because I'm definitely gonna be doing that. Now, if that means I have to like wait a little bit before I can go to the next phase of the great beyond or whatever, or to the next incarnation, I guess I'll just have to wait a little bit because I'm definitely gonna take advantage of the haunt factor. I'm definitely gonna be a specter for a little bit. I am a full body apparitions of people. It's gonna be great. I'll be wearing a banana suit or something. It'll just be ridiculous. It'll be really fun. There's drop-in communicators. I mean, maybe I should just reread this book. No, okay. But in all honesty, let's get out of here because I really want to watch Mission Impossible 8, The Final Reckoning, which I've never watched, and it's already probably too late for that tonight. But and I got to do a meditation. I had a gateway meditation the other night that blew my gourd open in such an intense way. I was have you ever been on the precipice of weeping for an extended period of time where you're just like, I don't know. Yeah, I don't, it's like you're choked up, like an extended choke. Uh, I maybe for the first time, I'm doing wave 5. I'm doing NVC, nonverbal communication exercises, trying to get that, mastered and trying to understand it and be better at it and things like that. And I start hurtling through space, like hurtling, not like I'm running hurdles, but I start just kind of, I'm seeing stars. I am like, it's the closest I've ever come to experiencing, uh, dare I say, intense psychedelics during a meditation. Um, and when I say intense psychedelics, I mean like the strong stuff, like, DMT. It's the closest I've come to that. And it was so overwhelming emotionally in a good way that I was on the precipice of a weep for probably let's say it probably felt longer than it actually was. So I'd say 3 minutes straight. And just like wanting to just burst into overwhelming tears of joy. It was awesome. And I gotta say, I was so upset when it was over, when I had to come back into my body. It was bonkers. And I was given something, an image. Let me find it. Is it in this notebook? I don't think it's in this notebook, but I'm gonna look just in case it is. Actually, I think it might be. I was given an image. Yeah, it is. This was an image on December 1st. This was from Wave 5, number 2. I'll show you the image. You see here? And it's a very simple image here. If you have video, you can see what I'm showing here. But it's a circle with kind of like a little weird, not a flat line in the middle, like that doesn't, it's just kind of in the middle of the circle. It doesn't go across like a diameter or a radius or even something like that. But it almost kind of looks like a smile thing. And don't worry about the smudge on the bottom there. But I had to draw that because there was something about that symbol, and it was white, with like a black little line in the middle of it, that kind of like a curvature line. And I got to tell you, it, for whatever reason, I was shown that symbol, and it was like, this will be important to you. Now, I don't know if it means anything. I don't know if I've got, I can't grab these books because there's things stacked on top. I have an Egyptian hieroglyphic dictionary. I have volume 1 and volume 2, for moments like this. I also have my rune chart right above me on the wall. You can't see it for moments like this. For whenever symbols pop up, I can just have quick, like, boom, and then, although the Egyptian hieroglyph dictionaries are intense. That is some heavy lifting, and not just because the books are giant, but that's some heavy lifting stuff over there that's probably above my pay grade, to be quite honest with you. But anyway, yeah. So I can't recommend that enough, and I can't recommend getting into the Gateway Voyage meditations enough. So if you haven't, check that out. Maybe go to the Monroe Institute. I got to get there. I'll get there. Haven't been there yet, but I'll get there. But anyway, in the meantime, where am I? Oh, I'm in Mason City, Illinois, Friday, Saturday, and then I'm in Dayton, Ohio on the 20th at Bricky's Comedy Club. So I hope to see you at a comedy show. Bricky's in downtown Miamisburg. Come out and see a show. I hope you're doing well. I love you. I hope you love yourself. You got to take care of yourself during the holidays. And remember, comfort and community. This is how we do this. And it's about the individual, and it's about the experience, and what is the effect on the individual. And that's what we really care about, right? And the mysteries are fun, and the rabbit holes are wild and exciting, but it's about our experience, and what is the effect it has on it, and what transformational effect, if in fact any, is a paranormal experience having on us, or having on you or me or whoever else is having them. And 30 to 50% of SPE, spontaneous paranormal experiences, include some kind of premonition, or vision, or true dream. Wow, that's really cool to remember. Okay. Well, in the meantime, I hope you take care of yourself. And if I don't see you at a live comedy show, I hope to see you at the watering hole on the astral plane.